All right. We should be live everywhere except Instagram right now. So just take a second to get live on Instagram. So for everybody watching, just hang tight for 10 seconds or so we can get this going on IG as well. Then I'll introduce what the hell we're doing here. So here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Going live on IG. 3, 2, 1, boom. Okay, now we're really live. We're ready to rock.
Sweet.
Hey, what's up, everybody? John Patrick Morgan here with my friend Allan Santos. And I asked Allan to do a live because I'm curious to hear about Allan's 100 days of, did you call it forgiveness or self-forgiveness?
I started self-forgiveness, but it just turned into forgiveness
Just,
by the end.
yeah, that's what
Yeah.
happens, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to get into it. So I love this practice, forgiveness practice that I originally learned from Steve Hardison. And yeah, and I made it my own and I just evolved it and I teach a whole bunch of different ideas around it. And it's to me, it's one of the best practices to create freedom. And Allan's turned it into Allan. So who is Allan for me? First of all, actually, let me talk about that. Allan was a client years ago. He's become a friend, and I love the way Allan attacks life. Everything he touches, he brings such an attention to mastery with. I said like I could just sit and watch him cut vegetables because like the way that he just learns to use a knife to cut with, and his background in fitness and yoga and in music and now in coaching, just like this depth of mastery and attention to practice and detail, I find isn't something that I grew up with and I learned later in life. So I find it so fascinating when people are that committed. And so when Allan decided to take that way of being and apply it to forgiveness, I got really excited. Just that commitment. It reminds me of the time that you decided to memorize the Tao Te Ching, which is like just one chapter at a time. It's like
Yeah.
these kind of epic missions. The commitment to stick with it, and what it cultivates in you. And you're like the Josh Whiteskin that I know personally. For me, like the guy who wrote the art of learning. I know you love that book.
Yeah.
And so I don't know anything about what Allan's experience was. Oh, I know a little bit from his sharing, but I'm just so curious of what happens when you practice forgiveness that long with that much attention. So I've got a bunch of questions for you, man. And I said, do you want to do this as a live? And you said, sure. So for everybody watching, I'm about to explore for my curiosity inside of a practice that I love. And so Allan, thanks for being here and doing this with me today.
Oh, thanks for the opportunity, man. I'm so excited and yeah, just pumped to be here.
Cool. So let's start at the beginning. Like, what was your first experience? What was the experience of self-forgiveness that had you decide you want to do it for 100 days?
Let's see. Well, I learned the practice from you when I first started working with you. Maybe even before that. I think I may have attended one of your very early calls, abracadabra calls or something like that. So I'm not a stranger to the practice. I hadn't really devoted a lot of time to it, in like some steady time to it. It's a practice I touch. It's an incredibly deep tool to create freedom. So there are times where I'm really engaged with it. But around November, December, there was just something strange going on internally. I was noticing like my equanimity was slipping into this place where it was almost nihilistic. So like a thought doesn't matter, but that would sort of like go down a slippery slope to like nothing matters.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't matter. So that was like, I could really notice myself starting to cling to that a little bit. Like there was something really sticky about that. And I'm no stranger to that kind of thought going through my mind. I've had moments of like real deep depression where that's kind of circulating. I've never had any thoughts of like, no action planning or anything like that coming out of those kinds of things. But I was like, man, I've had this experience where those thoughts come into my mind. I don't matter. Life doesn't matter. And I understand they're just thoughts, but man, what would it be like if I just didn't have those at all? And I started just forgiving myself for some of those things that were happening. I was like, I think I need to really dive back into this practice to really be with my thoughts and creating some freedom, forgiveness around those things. And the self-forgiveness practice was just the easiest one It just
Mm.
seemed like the one that had the least barrier of entry to do, especially on a daily basis. I knew I could spend
Hmm.
a minute on it and it would be useful, or an extended period of time on diving in to something, and that would be useful too. So I love the flexibility of it and
Hmm.
the ability to expand and collapse the practice just given
Hmm.
the constraints of the day.
And so when you came to your practice, typically was it in the morning? Is that when you would do it, or depended,
Yeah,
or?
I had like a on the mat, let's call it
Hmm.
like a
Hmm.
dedicated time every morning that I would spend. And there were days in the afternoons, evenings, whatever. There might be something left over, and
Mm.
I might dive into it later, or I might save it for the next day. It just depended on the day, how much I felt up to it.
And when you
Um,
came to your mat, did you come in knowing these are the things I want to work through forgiveness, or did you kind of sit the mat and just see what was present and meet that with forgiveness?
that kind of changed over the length of the practice. So
Mm.
in the beginning, I knew that there was like when I really started to pop the hood open, uh, you
The
just kind
stuff.
of know like there's
Yeah.
stuff in there, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, well, I think I'm okay. Like I'm just gonna bring my meditation or like my awareness to it, whatever. But as soon as I popped the hood open, I was like, holy shit,
Mm.
there's a lot here that I really didn't even understand that was really churning
Mm.
underneath my experience. So I just did a simple audit, just like what's going on, and just
Mhm.
tried to get everything I could down. And I really approached it from
So
like,
you had a written
yeah,
list to start. Yeah.
yeah. And I really approached it from like, I'm just gonna let anything come out here. And there's
Yeah.
nothing too small. Like there's
Mhm.
absolutely nothing too small that I'm not gonna write down or treat with
Mm.
a depth to it. And
Mhm.
that was really about it. Because
Mm.
I think for me at least, and some people there's this kind of experience of like, I need to get to the right one, or
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
there's one that's going to just somehow blast open the gates and take care of it all. But I don't think it
Yeah.
quite works that way. Maybe I learned this from you, but it's like a thorny bush. You're trying to get to the
Mm.
trunk and you just can't, right? So you have to
Mm.
work with the outer layers first and trim away some of
Mhm.
the thorns and the leaves that are scratching everything, and then you can sort of start to see like, oh wow, there's some fundamental, real thematic ideas about how I'm really shaping the world here.
Yes. Yes, it is. That's all absolutely true, and I can relate to that experience, and the reason that I was most excited about speaking to you at the end of this project is because of not only how you have the curiosity about what you found your way through. Actually, I'm not as interested in the content of what you found your way through and even what the trunk is, because I know you must have found your way through some things and found the trunk and had some liberation at a really deep level. That stuff is interesting, but not as interesting as who I know you become as a gardener through doing that for 100 days.
Yeah,
And so for me, that's when I got really into self-forgiveness on a regular, it was like, oh, this is not about inquiry or liberation from a particular idea or some root idea. It's actually about becoming somebody adept at this thing we call forgiveness.
yeah,
So can you speak to that after that's I get the chills just
yeah,
thinking about like 100 days of that.
totally. There's a real depth here that's available to everyone, and I kind of equate it to like meditation, right? In the
Mhm.
way that stress relief and stress reduction isn't the point of meditation.
Mm.
Like understanding your consciousness is the point of meditation. And I
Mhm.
think the same thing is available here. I find it's the self-forgiveness practice, not one of addition and subtraction. For me, when I first took on this practice, not this time, but like when I first learned of this practice, it was all about like, oh, I'm gonna do this to create who I am. Like I'm gonna
Mhm.
go through this thing so I can have this document.
Mhm.
And now it's not really about that. Like that's a great byproduct of what happens and this
Mhm.
orientation of like who I create myself to be. But it's really, for me, it's like there's just an interesting thing that happened about halfway through where, um, how do I explain it? there's a natural immune system that our body has, right? But we have to take care of our body, or the body immune system gets overloaded and can't do its thing. So, like, if I fell when I was running on the trail and I got a bunch of rocks in my hand,
Mm-hmm.
and I just left it, it get infected, all
Mm-hmm.
these things. Now, if I left it, my world would start to orient around this thing. Like I would become a person who doesn't shake hands
Mm-hmm.
to protect the thing that's happening,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I would identify as that and all these different things. But the simplest thing to do would be to just to wash your hand, and then all of a sudden the
Mm-hmm.
body's immune system takes over. And the
Mm.
thing I realized through this practice over time is just like dealing with this massive list of hundreds and hundreds of non-useful judgments about myself, about the world, was at a certain point, there's some inner thing, some inner knowledge that starts to take over and cleanses the
Mm.
consciousness itself. And that's the thing that was like,
Yeah,
whoa, holy shit.
that's
This is
cool.
this is incredible. Yeah.
I can really relate to the experience. I hadn't necessarily named it that way. I love that metaphor. I had never heard that before, and it makes perfect sense. And yeah, like so. Just to map it across, practically, what you're saying is that like washing the dirt and pebbles off the hand is the self forgiveness practice, and like you're not the body isn't completely healed. The hand's not completely healed. The spirit is the spiritual body, the psychological body is not completely healed when you've done that self forgiveness, but you've done enough of the conscious work that you've kind of set the stage for the unconscious intention to bring peace and to let go, to keep doing its work. Like it
Yeah.
continues to, it's almost like there's a reverberation of an unconscious echo or pattern of self forgiveness that's occurring in the wake of that conscious practice.
That's right.
Which brings me to another question I wanted to ask is like, what did you find through having a morning practice or regular practice of self forgiveness? What forgiveness did you see spontaneously arising throughout your day internally? Not trying to do it, but what happened throughout your day?
Yeah. It's funny because I've tried to look at this and distinguish and sort of deconstruct what's going on, but I started to the language of I forgive myself or I'm forgiving myself or like there's a belief here and
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do this process that that shortened in every iteration of it. If there's something really sticky,
Mm-hmm.
it didn't have its grasp as much as I brought forgiveness to it. But there were also just things that were letting go very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And there were also like surprising ways of being that I was showing up that were like new for me as well. Like I was seeing things differently as well. So I
That was
think,
just spontaneously emerging, a new way of
yeah,
being in the space of that forgiveness. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Do you have
So
an
there,
example? Do you happen to share
uh,
to interject there?
yeah. Um, I think some simple examples, like I don't have a specific one off the top of my head. I feel like some of that
Mm-hmm.
stuff is sort of like in
I
the
get it.
past right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like there were like little things like if I'm driving and someone cuts me off or like,
Yeah.
yeah, simple things like that, like where even the like most mild of like irritations that
Mm-hmm.
I would know would be a regular occurrence in my experience. And I would just be like, oh, it's okay. It's like, I don't know
Mm.
what he's up to, or like whatever,
Right. Yeah.
whatever. Those kinds of things were just like, did not matter at all.
Those are to me, those little things are the biggest things. Like that's
Yeah.
almost more fucking cool to me than like the big one because the big one you've got so much conscious attention on it, you're working on it, you're getting free from it. And when you're free, it's like, yeah, that's like makes sense. But when like these little things pop and you just notice you're driving and somebody cuts you off and you're like, that's all right. And then like you're like, wow, that's weird. That's
Yeah.
new. That's different.
Yeah.
These little kind of edges that come off. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
So I interjected. You were sharing about the concept overall of things spontaneously arising. You were
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. I just found, I just found the dissolving of some of the non-useful judgments like happening very quickly on its
Yeah,
own. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's I still have this phrase. I think I've shared it. Maybe you've heard me share it years ago, or when my son was biting, when he
Mm.
was 2, and I was trying to like tell him, no, don't bite. And he'd get stressed and he'd bite more. And then somebody told me to bite him back, and I did, and that was worse. And then he bit me even harder, and I was like, okay. So like, and then I read in the Tao, it was something along the lines. You probably know the chapter. It was about meeting high intensity with low intensity. And so then I just started like when he bit me, I would just lay down on the floor
Mm.
and I would say that hurts. And it's like and he just would stop because I was just relaxing. Like I brought like him into lower like the less
Mm.
intense vibe.
Yeah.
And when I was doing that, I was saying to him, gentle, gentle, easy, easy. And I would just say that to him, gentle, gentle, easy, easy. And that so it was a practice.
Yeah.
Like I was doing it every day,
Yeah.
not like on the mat, but with my son. And sorry, my screensaver keeps going on here and disappearing. So I got to keep moving the mouse. Okay. And then one day I was walking into the kitchen while I was doing, I don't know, I was on some kind of super clean diet. I was walking into the kitchen with like the idea that I'm go get a cookie or something from the fridge. Um, and then I heard my mind. I didn't realize what I was doing. I was just kind of walking to the kitchen, and then I heard the words in my head: gentle, gentle, easy, easy, just like out of nowhere. And I'm like, when someone wasn't even there, and I'm like, wait, what was that? And I
Yeah.
noticed that like I was at the just at the liminal consciousness threshold. I was judging myself for going to get the cookie, and then my mind was like, it just did with me what I had been doing with my son. And
Yeah.
it's like it's the and this is what I imagine you're experiencing, that like these patterns of practice of loving kindness towards the self just pop into like the conscious I didn't do that. It's become a part of my unconscious automatic being to be kind towards myself, and it just shows up when I need it.
That's right. That's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's exactly my experience. It's like why I call it like an immune system. It's just like my consciousness is cleansing and purifying my soul at all times.
yeah.
Right.
Was and you so you kind of yes, this your body has your spiritual body, psychological body has this immune system, but it feels a little bit like, I'm curious how you think of it, that like the self forgiveness practice is actually strengthening the immune system as
Yeah.
well. It's like making it stronger, not just making it available to it, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely think that too. It's like it's the same sort of like I don't know, maybe the metaphor breaks down at some point, but like it's just like you got to take care of you got to take care of it, right? You got to take care of your
Yeah.
mind, you got to take care of your body. The more you do, the stronger it's going to get. And the stronger it gets, the
Yeah.
more some of this stuff just starts to like take on this weird like
Yeah.
unexplainable um, quality to it where it's happening and you're witnessing it happening or just observing a difference, a tangible
Yeah.
difference, a really
Yeah.
observable difference. And some of it's just unexplainable how that process happens, but it's also like you really notice it happening too.
Yeah. I do believe that the language at least structurally, it holds the energy and the attention in place. Were there any particular phrases that you noticed arising in your mind throughout your daily life that you, upon reflection, you're like, oh, that comes from my morning practice? Like I
Hmm.
had the gentle, gentle, easy, easy. Was it like I forgive myself, or that's okay, or is there some kind of like
Yeah, I
familiar
think like
language?
some of the I realized like once I stopped thinking of it this time around, at least when I stopped thinking of it as like I'm going to create declarations out of this, there would be
Mm-hmm.
really simple declarations that came from spirit anyway, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So one of the ones that was very early on, it's at the top of my declarations now, like consciously creating who I am. It's just I am here. It is
Mm-hmm.
so simple,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
ridiculously simple.
Mm-hmm.
But like almost any situation I'm in,
Mm-hmm.
if there's like a little bit of friction or something I feel, or like some tenseness, that'll show
Mm-hmm.
up, and all of a sudden I just feel grounded, connected,
Mm-hmm.
like interconnected, and supported by the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's one that really sticks out.
Yeah, beautiful. Another thing that I'm curious about is I had a hunch to this effect, and then I asked you. The only thing we said before we started this live, I said to you is, did you call it 100 days of self-forgiveness or 100 days of forgiveness? And then you said, well, it kind of changed throughout.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Well, I was relating it to self-forgiveness at the start, just because I don't know why. It's the name of the tool, I guess, maybe. And
Yeah.
that's how yeah. Um, I'd say, I don't know, halfway in, something like that, month and a half into this practice, I'd, I'd done a lot on the inventory. And it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't so much about the inventory anymore. It was, I would basically, it became more of like its own process in a way. I would just start with like an area, a theme, or like I would just say, hey, I forgive myself for any harm I've done to myself with any thought. And I would
That's
just
the way you would
stay,
speak it. So you kind of
yeah,
you declare it kind of conceptually open in
yeah,
that way.
totally
Yeah.
open.
Yeah.
And and yeah, and from there, it would take a 10,000 different directions, but um, sometimes there would be something like real tangible, like a tangible belief that I could then
Mm-hmm.
work with, and other times it would
Mm-hmm.
just be like very supportive, like yes, you're
Mm-hmm.
totally loved. You're loving
Mm-hmm.
yourself in this moment. And I would just listen and
Mm-hmm.
keep saying the statement and see what came
Mm-hmm.
up next. So I would like
Mm-hmm.
divide a piece of paper into two. I would write that, or like or even just I forgive myself, and see what came up. And sometimes, it would just go through, and there would be just this moment where something locked in,
Mm-hmm.
and like I felt like there'd just be a landing spot for,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and that's where I would complete. Um, so I also, yeah, I don't know. Like there was also a process of just really understanding on a more deep level that some of the things I think are local judgments.
Mm-hmm.
If I took them through these seasons of my life, it's like, well, why would I go beyond the 5 years that I've known this person if I'm trying, right? And like,
Mm-hmm.
I would really start to realize it's like, oh no, wow,
Mm-hmm.
this is actually like a way of, a belief that has created a way of being long before it manifests through this person I'm thinking I'm forgiving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so I realized it was like, I don't know, somewhere around along the line, the self just dropped, and it just
Yeah.
became forgiveness.
So were you also forgiving other people for things that you were judging them for? Is
I
that why?
would.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of that, but I realized, it's like you do this practice and you realize it's just like coming back to me. Um, One of the things I did kind of take away from this is like, wow, this is all my internal practice, and I do realize that there are some things that if I chose to, I could probably make some amends in some way to some of the people. I don't know if it's needed or not. It's just an
Mm-hmm.
insight I had. I haven't committed to anything, but like there is an external forgiveness that I think is something that could be explored for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when you say external forgiveness, you mean communicating with people and
Yeah.
asking for their forgiveness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an interesting thing too. I brought that in, I don't know, a few years back. I saw that I was asking forgiveness. I was giving myself forgiveness and I was forgiving others, but I wasn't. There's that third dimension, which is asking for other people for their forgiveness,
Yeah.
which is it's a very different practice. And
Yeah.
I think if you do that as a path to your freedom and peace, that could be a bit dangerous. But if you are
Right.
doing it as a gift, as an offering,
Right.
then that can be really beautiful. But staying on for me, when I experienced self forgiveness and forgiving others, self forgiving myself, forgiving others, forgiving myself, forgiving others. It just kind of like it all blended together. And of course, I could say, well, it's all, and I have said that all judgment is self judgment. But what that misses out when I say it that way is that like it misses out the opportunity for the dissolution between self and other. and actually all judgment of self and other is just judgment, right? And so, and all forgiveness is just for of self and other is forgiveness. And what I mean is that, like, if I can, like, when you said the example of the person on the street, like cutting you off, and you were like, no big deal, right? That was the way I see that is that's a projection onto them and that situation of the freedom that you've created in yourself. Because you're not judging yourself for something, it's easier to not judge another person. And at that point, for me, the self versus the other just dissolves, and there's just what
Mm,
this aspect of the universe called Alan or JP is no longer having a problem with what the universe is itself is doing,
right.
you know. And so
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
to me, I love that's the for me that's the deepest spiritual experience of the discovery of forgiveness of self and forgiveness of other is the same thing. It's the same, like that union that occurs. Like Byron
Right,
Katie's "Judge Your Neighbor." You go through it and you realize, oh, it's not about the neighbor; it's about me. It's not like it's about me instead of the neighbor. It's no, it's about me as myself and the neighbor and everybody. And so it's that, like, it's that sense of interconnectedness and part of something greater that is born, that for me is born through this practice at the deepest level. Have you experienced? Would you say you experienced that as well?
I think so. Like, I'm just trying to let your words land, um,
Hmm.
and trying to see through conceptually through your language as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, uh, I mean, in my own language, yes, I do see and feel the more I do this, the more I feel like I am interconnected with
Mm,
all, and
yeah.
that's the second. Actually, like, I am here is the first. The
Hmm.
second thing was that came through these declaration or this forgiveness is I am everything and everyone.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like I was just on a walk before this, and it's like,
Hmm.
gosh, I'm breathing for the trees. The trees are breathing for
Hmm.
me.
Isn't that awesome? Oh,
I was
get the
like,
chills. I've been
yeah,
there. Yeah.
yeah. And I feel like that's the same thing with the forgiveness practice.
Yeah.
Um, it's it's interconnected and it's for us all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I love that. I still have the chills, like sustained chicken skin, because I've had that experience where it's an embodied experience where you realize that, like, I'm looking out at my tree, like, I'm breathing out and it's breathing that in. And then it's exhaling and I'm breathing that in. It's like it's actually fucking true on, like, a scientific level.
yeah,
And it's so spiritually beautiful, right? Like
yeah.
everything is just breathing into each other. Yeah, man, that is awesome. So many things I want to ask. So another thing that I find when I'm teaching people forgiveness, and I've gone through it myself, and you use the words, sometimes things are sticky.
Yeah,
So what do you do when something's really sticky? Oh, actually, no, but wait, we have to do something before that. We have to
sure.
go in. We have to first touch on how do you know whether you're actually forgiving yourself or if you're just saying the words. And then we can go into if something's sticky, because we need to know if we're actually getting there first, right? So how do you know that? How would you articulate that? You must know by now, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is it's kind of like pizza, man. Like, even the worst pizza is good, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So, like, 100 days is a long time. There were
Right.
days where I'm like, I know I'm just saying the words.
Right.
And I was just okay with that
I
too,
get it. Yeah.
right?
Dominoes.
Yeah,
It's like, I'll
totally.
take it.
It's
The
good. It's
game's on.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's
fine.
fun. Yeah.
But I think there's a listening that uh, there's a difference between just rote going through the whatever style, whatever form of forgiveness you're giving. There's a difference between that and really listening to
Mm,
what's emerging. And like I said earlier, it's not a addition and subtraction. It's not a process of addition and subtraction. It's a process of revelation.
Hmm.
And it's like I call it a prayer unto myself.
Hmm.
And if you have that attitude of prayer and that sacredness and honoring of the process and yourself, really, I mean, like it is honoring yourself. Um, I think it just takes care of itself.
Mm.
You'll be able to tell when you're. It's like there's just
Mm.
a sense of connection to yourself and something greater that you will feel if you are
Hmm.
tuned in and listening and really engaged in the process.
Hmm.
There's a stark difference between that and just going through the words.
Hmm.
And as I say that, like I said, going through the words is also like it's if you do it enough and do it on this like mundane level, it's something's going to happen.
Yeah, that's true. If you do it on the mundane enough, it's like it will just be given to you. You
Yeah,
don't have to bring. If you're not going to do it regularly, then bringing a deeper sincerity and attention to it's going to help you get some juice from it faster.
totally.
But if you don't have that, or you don't know what that is because it's new,
Yeah.
like, yeah, I think you can trust that. Like, if you just keep getting on the bike, like it's just balance will just show up. You don't need to take the
Hmm.
course on how to ride a bike. It's just like
Yeah.
you figure it out. Um, yeah. Okay. So.
But there's something coming up for me. Like I think it's in the same way that we were talking about self and other.
Mhm.
Um, it's like there's also another there's also another force that you're partnering with in this forgiveness process.
Mm.
At least that's how I experience it. There's another thing that is not my conscious mind creating with me, forgiving with
Yes.
me.
Yeah. 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 The name I would put on it is love.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like I think about it as like that love is always there and available, and like in a way, this is like a directionalizing of it in a like, you know,
Yeah.
kind of like Ghostbusters, like aiming the
Yeah. Yeah.
beams,
You're right.
at
Yeah.
the thing. And then um, yeah, especially in that, like, to really zoom in on that moment. Like for me, when I'm practicing, I forgive myself. I like to, I like to hold my hand on my heart. I like to close my eyes. I like to rock. I got this from looking at the people that were like crazy sitting in Venice Beach, California, just like rocking, like talking shit, like fucking shit, like in a loop. But I'm like, what if I did that, like, but looped something like forgiveness? Like I forgive myself, judging myself as I'm not enough. And I like to loop it because when I loop it, like kind of like a mantra, the looping keeps my attentional field on the possibility. And as I loop around and around, it's like, and then I start to access the truth of that possibility. And
Hmm.
I just keep looping. And as I start to feel it, it's not like, oh, I can feel it now, so I'll stop. No, no, no.
Yeah.
Actually, I keep
Yeah.
looping and keep looping. And then it's like, and I start to, and then what happens is then it's almost like the flywheel is spinning on its own. And I might still be seeing it, but speaking it, but like, yeah, there's this. I feel that I've become witness to a process that's now occurring.
Right. Yeah.
Like something is pushing that judgment out of me, and I'm typically overwhelmed with emotion, not just a sense of liberation, but also a sense of awe for the process that is now occurring. Can
Yeah.
you relate to that?
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, there's the exactly what you're talking about. It's like staying with it, staying with it. There are kind of two moments I'm thinking of. It's like there's that moment of awe, which is the moment I really see my innocence of it. Like not only the innocence of my judgment, but like the true innocence of my being. The innocence that is just innate.
Yes.
Um, so there's that moment, and there's also the moment where it's like very close to that moment, like not too far afterwards, where it's like I see the innocence, and there's just like kind of like like kind of like laughter like that,
Hmm.
and that moment is when I feel like, oh, I've landed and for at least for right now, this feels complete. I can move on if I want to. I can stay here and be in this if I want
Hmm.
to as well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of the words you just said was what I figured out. I think definitely after we were working together, um, as how do I meet what do I do when the forgiveness is not working and it's really sticky? So let me ask what you have discovered in that situation, and I'm curious if that same word
Yeah.
um, will be there
I I just like if it took multiple days, it took
to
multiple
stay
days.
with it.
I
Yeah,
just stayed with it. I
yeah,
also just one of the things that helped me when things got really sticky, I ended up putting a bunch of pictures, like everything from um, I learned from Dave and Kathleen. I watched their declaration thing, which was very informative. One of the things I learned from you was like finding a moment where um, finding a moment where you can where the judgment may have first happened and finding innocence in that
yes,
version of yourself. So I ended up just like putting a bunch of pictures, everything from like yesterday all the way down to like the earliest picture I have with my mom after I was
yeah.
born.
So you
And
did so where did I share that with you? Did you come to one of my
you,
events or something? Or
um,
because it wasn't in my creating being course, I don't think.
yeah, that part you didn't. I got sort of like the yeah, just to come up with one version of like when did that first happen. I learned from you in one of the live
Yeah,
events.
but the innocence piece.
Yeah, the innocence piece from
Yeah.
you. Yeah,
Oh, you
from
did.
you.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
must have been at one of my events. Yeah,
yeah.
cool.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, got it.
And then, so if things got really sticky, I would take it through these pictures. It was just because like the visual representation became a lot easier for me
Yeah,
to go through, and give me like
yeah,
something to anchor in.
right.
If it was too much, like just trying to do it all internal was like a little bit. It was too. There are too many moving pieces for me
Hmm.
to hold my attention on what needed to be held. So having a visual to go through and take it step by step was really helpful for me when things got really sticky. And it was just
Mm,
like it was just staying with it. If it took
hmm.
a day or two, uh, that was fine with me.
Hmm.
And also, I was okay. Like sometimes it just didn't feel like I really got there, but I knew that if I didn't get there, it was going to come up
Right.
sometime soon anyway, just by surfacing it in my
Hmm.
attention anyway. So I wasn't too I wasn't too needy about having it to get anywhere.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I'm more of a needy guy because I'm because that's where I figured out the innocence piece, like, which it sounds like you kind of gave two answers. You said I just stuck with it, but you also were using this process of looking for the innocence as well, which maybe you're doing that all the time. I don't do that all the time. I do that when I need to because it's just like another step.
Yeah.
Um, and for me, like, my logical brain wasn't willing sometimes to forgive. But when I realized that, like, I had my, I mapped it over actually. The reason I mapped it over is because when I learned the process, when Steve taught it to me, he talked about forgiveness as like a presidential pardon.
Hmm.
It's not that you necessarily reverse the judgment, but you just let out of jail free. It's
Mm,
just like
cool.
it's instant, which is
Yeah.
cool, and that worked for me. But then there was like sometimes where I'd be like, but I'm still guilty. It's
Mm,
still
yeah.
wrong. And then I have my father was a cop, and one of his buddies, who was also a cop, was found guilty of murder and went to prison for, uh, and this wasn't on the job. It was like something supposedly that he did like in his personal life and went to jail. And then like 20 years later, the real killer came forward and said, I can't take it anymore. I confess. And they found the DNA evidence match. And it was like, he got out of prison. His kids are now, they were like little kids and then the kids are grown, fucked
Wow.
up his life. But like,
Yeah.
he wasn't pardoned. They found out that he was innocent.
Yeah.
And so I was like, what if there was a way for me to like locate my innocence? And this is like, I don't exactly remember how I got there, but the essence of it, which I'm just to sharing for everybody else who's listening here, this is what like helps me to really unlock when I'm really stuck in judgment and I can't just forgive myself. I can't forgive myself because deep down I'm still believing that it's my fault and I have to be responsible. I'm confabulating that with this story that I need to be judged and I'm not worthy of love, right? And so, or conflating that, I should say. And so, for me, like not knowing that I did something means I'm innocent, spiritually, psychologically.
Mm,
Not it wasn't if it wasn't my intention, I'm
right,
innocent. Now that doesn't
right,
mean that that's how it works legally.
right.
Like I still need to be accountable to the world to make society function and stuff like that. But spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, I'm innocent if it wasn't my intention. The I that was not intending to that is innocent if it didn't know and it wasn't intending. And so like this biblical phrase, of Christ on the cross, and he says when to one of the other people being crucified about the people that are doing the crucifying, the Romans, and he says, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do."
Mm,
And it's like forgive them because they don't know what they're doing. And if they knew, that would be different. That's my
right.
read on that.
Yeah,
But they
yeah.
don't know, therefore forgive them. And so I was like, what if the key to my forgiveness is for me to realize that I didn't know what I was doing whenever I did what I was supposedly what I'm judging myself for. And so when I'm stuck and it's the forgiveness isn't working, I'm just looking. Then I tack on for I didn't know what I was doing. And when I say that, it's an inquiry. I didn't know what I was doing, and I'm inviting myself to try that on, and like see like where might that be true? It's like, oh yeah, I mean I knew the action that I was taking, but I didn't really realize that I was doing that to myself. And wow, and so for me, when I can see that I didn't know that I was doing it, I wake up to my innocence, and then the forgiveness unlocks.
Yeah.
You have a
That's
similar experience? Yeah.
well, that's powerful, for sure. Um, yeah, I guess for me, it's the same but a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Same but different. Tell me your
yeah.
version.
I mean,
I love getting into the really subtle
yeah,
aspect of like what's actually occurring inside when you do this.
yeah. For me, realized it's for me, I realized if I try to, if I don't understand the impact it's had over the entirety of my existence,
Mm,
even if I latch on to like a place that's like, oh, I see my innocence there. For some reason, it's not. For some reason, going through and really mapping out how it's shown up and forgiving every single, as many versions of me as I need to.
mhm,
Um, that leads me to the innocence that you
mm,
experience quite,
mm,
through that one place of just finding it
mm,
through that phrase. I didn't I knew not what I was doing.
mhm,
Yeah, but for me, it's like it took when something was really entrenched. It took seeing it like present day. Can I find this
mhm,
5 minutes ago? Oh, there it is. And
mhm,
then
mhm,
can I find
mhm,
it in the past week? Okay, there's a
mhm,
couple things. Forgive myself for
mhm,
that. And going back another year, 5 years, this, in college, in my first
mm,
job, like my first relationship with
mhm,
my first marriage, um, all the way back to the moment I was born.
mm,
But it was like seeing it in all these different inculcations. And then it took me coming all the way back to the moment I was born. But I couldn't
mhm,
sidestep all these. I couldn't just leapfrog and start from, I mean, I could, and that's useful and helpful, but it still felt like I had to go through all these things to really capture and feel the innocence of that, like
mhm,
that spirit with gifts and talents who was emerging into this world to share them, as a
Hmm.
pure soul with
Yeah.
no expectations or thoughts inculcated
Hmm.
into his being. So
Yeah.
it took going through that process when things were really sticky for me.
Yeah. Thanks for pointing that out. That makes sense too, because like there is a certain, it's not just forgiving yourself of a judgment, it's forgiving yourself for the kind of meta practice of judging yourself as something, right? And so like a lot of what this is like forgiving yourself for the continuity of believing, for the practice of believing that judgment about yourself. And so therefore the phrasing, I forgive myself for judging myself as, you're actually forgiving yourself for the act of judging yourself as this thing for all those periods of time. That phrasing, as well as visiting each of the times that you've done
Mm-hmm.
that and really becoming present to the pattern of doing so. And that's like it's like a second level of a, yeah, you forgive yourself for being the person that's been doing that to yourself.
Yeah.
And I think you become more present to being that person as you visit all those instances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
So
think that's
subtle.
where, yeah. And I think that's where it intersects with like, oh, okay. I see how it's played out and I didn't know what I was, it's like I see where it intersects with
Yes.
yours. Yeah.
Yeah. And I did not
Oh,
know what I
I
was
see
doing.
the
Yeah.
entire collection of how this
Right.
little thing has created
Yeah.
this experience over the course of my life in these different ways. And
Yeah.
like, I didn't know. Like, had I known better, I would have
Yeah,
chosen
exactly.
something else.
Yeah. Yeah,
No
man.
one told me.
I know. I know. That's a good point too. Some of the things that are most pervasive as the way we judge ourselves are the hardest things to see. It's the water we swim in.
Mhm.
Like no one told me that I was judging myself in that way. One of the things that I'm really hot on, especially recent years, is helping people to get free from the judgments that they have of themselves that are not unique and that are very common and that are part of the collective and hold themselves in place. You know, like how many people judge themselves to their FICO score? Just because that's what you're
Yeah.
supposed to do.
Yeah. It's
That's what we're
the,
taught. We're
yeah.
taught like that. That's like, oh, you
Yeah.
know, it's like when I came back to the States, having been gone and for like 7 years in the UK and hadn't paid my credit cards and my FICO was like really low. When the banker like pulled my credit when I was opening up bank accounts, he's like, Mr. Morgan. He like leans in and lowers his voice like before he talks, like
Uh,
just because he knows like that's like a thing, right? And so there's such a cultural idea, and so many of the things that we're living into the under the rest of these beliefs, like we have no idea that we're judging ourselves, and if we had known, we wouldn't have done it. And so I'm actually, this is actually reminding me, like, or making me think. I wonder if this I forgive myself for I knew not what I was doing could be not just an inquiry in how I didn't know that I was doing that, but there's some way that that's going to become a path for me into other things that I'm doing to myself that I don't even know right now. Like, where else am I crucifying people? And I think I'm doing the right thing. Where am I
yeah.
crucifying myself? And I think I'm doing the right thing, but I just don't even realize it,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I mean,
But nobody told me. So having people help you to see it to me has been a gift.
yeah.
Um, so are you doing this work with clients? Are you teaching them this now, having done this deep practice? And
I've done it all along, but there's just a more, I mean, I'm just so much more connected to it.
mm,
And like trying to teach my clients how to do this from like, if you do this, you're going to have this document thing that will then
mhm,
like somehow be
make you awesome.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Versus like, this is a prayer unto yourself that will have you connect with how much love is inside of you
Mm,
and be able to use that as a resource to create from.
mhm,
It's a whole different ballgame. So just the depth and the that I bring to it is having it land.
mhm.
It's like used to be like, oh, these fucking dumb clients, they don't get it. And now it's like, oh yeah, it's like my own depth
Yeah.
with it wasn't, it just
Right. 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 Right.
wasn't there. So
I have very vivid memories of being with Steve when he was doing this practice with me. He taught it to me, but then he would do it with me, like in our
Mhm.
sessions, like
Mm.
whenever we needed to. And what I was aware of was how much he was able to track where I was on the inside, how much I'd actually forgiven myself, what I've gone there or not. I'd be like, I'd still having to have this moment where I start to feel the liberation. And then he would say, like, yeah, exactly. That's it. I'm
Yeah,
like, I didn't even say
yeah.
anything, dude. But he could just feel where I was at in the process. And now I know what that's like, having practiced this so much when I'm with people and when I teach it and do it with them. I'm watching them, and you've been with me at live events. It's even easier when it's in person. It's like I know exactly where they're at inside,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
I'm just feeling them, and I'm able to say a little bit of this, a little bit more of that, and then going this way and that way. And it's like taking them. I love the guiding a person through their internal experience. So have you found that as well? That your ability to attenuate to where they're at in their own self forgiveness has increased through this self practice?
Oh, completely, completely. It's like, as you were speaking, I mean, your wife's, she's incredibly gifted with being able to distinguish wine. It's the
Hmm.
same thing. It's like,
Hmm.
yeah, there's red and white. There's like it's working and it's not working,
Right. Yeah.
right? And there's like worlds within worlds within worlds within worlds that you can begin
Yeah.
to really understand and notice and be with for the other person. So that is yeah. But there's also just my own patience as well in the process. It's like I know how to just be with it because I've been with it myself. And it's like, oh, I can
Mm.
feel like they're not quite getting it. Or not, it's not that they're not quite getting it, but it's like, it's not quite sinking in. So I'll just say, like, let's repeat it 3 more times. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And just,
It's
just
okay.
so
Yeah.
gentle. Yeah, it's just so
Yeah.
gentle.
Yeah.
It's like,
Right.
you're doing great. It's okay.
Yeah. And that's what's beautiful about what you're modeling right there is you're actually modeling self-forgiveness in your energetic way of being in relationship to the subtle emergence of their self-judgment for not doing it right or well enough.
Yeah,
Right. And so it's okay that it's not working. Like it's you being like they're just cutting you off and they're cutting themselves off, and you're like, it's all right, let's just
yeah,
keep going, you know.
yeah.
Um,
And there's like
yeah.
visible, if you're really paying attention, there's like really visible uh, the body just starts to relax more and more and more.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's just like a big exhale. I mean, that's a really
Hmm.
obvious one.
Hmm.
Um, but you can see it in their face. They might
Yeah.
have their eyes
Face
closed, but like,
relaxes.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like,
Right
it just,
here between the eyes.
it just,
Sometimes it just kind of melts.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just,
Yeah.
they brighten up and
Hmm.
reverse age right before your eyes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So if you're
Yeah.
really paying attention, you can see this happening.
Yeah. Reverse aging is true. Oftentimes there's laughter too. Have you
Yeah.
noticed that?
Yeah.
I mean, I've for
Yeah.
myself and as well when I'm facilitating it with somebody else, I've just started laughing before in forgiveness. It's like, which is always fun because you're like, oh my gosh, it's like you just free and it becomes instantly so funny.
Yeah. I think
Um,
that's
yeah,
that connection to the innocence is like it's like ridiculous. Like I can't
yeah,
believe I yeah
yeah, yeah,
yeah
yeah. It's amazing how something can be so certain and so heavy and so true in the water you swim in, and then it can just be like, wait, what?
yeah.
It's just like almost like a joke afterwards. Yeah. Man, it's so good, dude. I'm sure we could keep riffing. It's been almost an hour. Um,
That's
so
awesome.
I would. Is there anything that you're like that you haven't shared that's like kind of something that was like relevant and significant for you?
I mean, you asked some great stuff around this. I don't feel like it's pretty thorough.
Yeah.
I mean, just I've grown to love the practice even more,
Hmm.
and it's like it also becomes your own. As you begin to
Hmm.
like learn how to navigate and what arises in you,
Hmm.
you just begin to learn how it takes a shape that is uniquely singular to you and your expression. And I think that's really incredible to be able to spend enough time with something
Hmm.
and have this tool begin to be shaped in a way that's actually like it's helping you navigate the conversation that's happening in your own head that is generated from you and only you. And I don't know. It's just an incredible, miraculous thing. And I'm so glad I took it on.
I'm so glad you did too, man. I was really excited when I saw it. I knew you would finish, and I knew you'd have growth and insight. I think I'll wrap with saying the etymology of forgiveness, to forgive, is to give greatly and intensely, because for is an intensifying prefix. For means like greatly, intensely, and give, to give greatly. And I think that when you do this practice, you realize that you are giving a gift, giving it to yourself, you're giving it to others, and who you become becomes a greater gift. And so I see that in you. So, and I knew it would be the case, but it's cool to be able to riff on it. So thank you. Thanks for the gift of your practice for all of us.
Thank you, man. And thanks for the opportunity to speak about it.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Anybody listening, if you want to learn forgiveness, you can reach out to Allan or me and we'll help you. All right. Lots of love, guys.
Love you all.
Do the fake sign off with you, Allan, and then I'll be, wait, I don't even know how to end this thing. Here we go.